And I want to talk about the offense. It's going to be something that we learn a lot more about as we go on. We're not seeing a ton of it. We're not really seeing it in its full form right now. But one thing that is clear, and, we talked to Klint, we talked to some of the players, he had some interesting things to say about Taysom Hill, Alvin Kamara. I don't want to get into those today. I want to get into those a little more down the road because I want to talk about the rookies today. But one thing that is very clear and that a lot of guys have mentioned is the difference in the verbiage from what you saw with Sean Payton, what you saw with the Pete Carmichael, Sean Payton offense, and what you're seeing with this offense, and more specifically, what you're hearing with this offense. And here's DA kind of talking about the differences there in terms of what the players themselves are actually saying.
Well, look, I think the biggest thing is the verbiage. Yeah. I think that's the biggest adjustment that, all players have as they go from system to system. I think the verbiage that we have now is a little less wordy than maybe what we've had in the past, which I think, can benefit, our players. And hopefully, look, I think the hope in terms of the system is, that we can kind of simplify and get guys not having to think so much and get guys playing faster. And I think that's part of what we're trying to do.
Yeah, and so there's been a lot written in the past about the how verbose the Sean Payton play calls were, right? And it's not everyone can do that, right? Like Drew Brees was a guy who was basically a human calculator when it came to the offense, right? But it makes it a lot more difficult for younger guys, and I think it kind of shortens that learning curve the way you're going to be doing it now. So what does that mean? So there was a video that Chase Daniel posted on Twitter where he broke down one of Sean Payton's play calls. And I'm not going to play the whole video, but I'm going to play the call itself so you can get an idea of what people mean when they're saying these are long play calls. This is Chase talking about it.
Gotta stay with me, okay? Hey, guys, all right, listen up. Gun, bunch right, jab, 15 stutter, kill 84, Z cowboy, wash out cross, on yellow, ready. What did you just say? Gun king, bunch right, jab, 15 stutter, F, kill 84, Z cowboy, Y shallow cross. Okay, so that's a run right here to a pass. Jab, 15 stutter, F means it's a weak side counter play with the F receiver or F tight end coming out and kicking out.
Yeah. And so all playbooks are complicated, but that in and of itself is it's as a young player, it must be just, whoa, just hearing all that. So what is the difference? What would this sound like? And obviously we're not going to get a ton of that early on with Klint, but I'll call back to Deuce McAllister sat down with Klint prior to the draft and he asked him what one of his play calls would be. And this is a good example of why this is a lot simpler.
A fun thing for me and you. Give me a play, generic play. Just give me a play. I just want to see if I can pick up what you're teaching me.
Yeah, trips right, 18 support.
Support or sport?
Support.
Trips right, obviously we got that. We're running out 11. So how do you, is it zebra for names? Is it 12 personnel? How do you distinct that from a personnel standpoint?
Well, I don't want to tell them.
No, you don't have
Carolina,
to. Generic. We're generic.
Yeah.
We're generic.
Yeah, 11, 12, 21.
Okay, and so from a personnel standpoint, that's normally how we're getting it in. And so from trips right, I got that. Yep. And then the 18 support, that offensive line understands and knows exactly what that is, and whether it's a numbered system, everybody's able to check right away. From a control standpoint, your quarterback, he comes up, he sees something. I don't like it. It looks like it's a strong safety blitz off the right side. Does he have? I mean, I'm assuming he has the right to audible right now. He can throw hot. What's the communication that you want him to be able to pick up so he can give that other information to the offensive linemen as well as the receivers?
Yeah. Well, I think this time of year it's important that you start small and you kind of call it and haul it and get guys.
Oh, yeah,
good
just run it to run it to run it.
And you build on what checks can be, and then you get to know the quarterback more and we get familiar with each other and what those checks could be. So I think that's part of the relationship process between me and Derek. So, but we're gonna start small and get good at something first.
Yeah, and so you can hear the difference when that entire spiel that came out of Chase Daniel's mouth.
Right.
A play call in the Klint Kubiak offense will be something as simple as, and there's going to be a little more complexity than this, but trips right 18 support is a play call. Now, you're going to have a formation out of that. Juice was talking about that. Okay, so 11 personnel, running back, tight end, 3 wide receivers, 12 is tight end, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, that sort of thing. So 21, 2 running backs, 1 tight end, 2 wide receivers. That's how it works. And so that's part of the play call too. It's just something you decide ahead of time. Now, how are you able to make that play call that simple? Well, it sounds like it's going to be a numbered system. So you are not reading out all of those details on every single play. You are reading out a number, and that corresponds with all of those details. So I think you're going to see people wearing wristbands, which is not something that you'd see in a lot of for the Saints. But for example, Tom Brady going to the Bucs, he wore a wristband, right? And so I think that's just a way to eliminate some of that verbiage, have people be on the same page, make sure that things are communicated a little bit faster, have a little more time in the huddle, right? And so I think that's when you talk about less words, that's kind of the example. And it's going to be interesting to see how that goes throughout the season. He, in that interview with Deuce, he was going to be coy regardless, but Deuce asked him about, some of the checks he'd make. Klint didn't really answer. But his answer was, hey, this is something we're going to figure out. So it sounds like it's going to be kind of a give and take between quarterback, offensive coordinator, in terms of what are the checks out of certain situations. So that might not necessarily exist yet. I think that's something that you're going to build on as you go, because that's what he said, whether you believe him or not. But I just thought that was interesting because we're going to hear a lot of this season about how the everything's a little more condensed, how everything's a little simpler. And I think that's just a good example of what that actually means.